Assalamu alaikum. How are you guys? I hope you are okay. Grade 5, and I miss you all. Today, inshallah, we start lesson number 5 in this chapter number 5. And yesterday we was talking about the clouds and precipitation. Today we talking about the climate and what is climate. So, what is the relationship between climate and weather? What is the relationship between them? And there is a big difference between weather and climate. We studied before the weather. What's the meaning of the weather? Weather is only describe the state of the atmosphere, like wind, speed and direction of wind, rain, precipitation, or the temperature. So there is a big difference between the weather and climate, and this is what we explain it in this presentation, inshallah. So we can watching this video that's talking about the climate.
Have you noticed our climate is changing? And when we say climate, we're not referring to day-to-day changes in weather. We're talking long-term trends, changes that you can only see over a long period of time. Like shorter ice cover on lakes, warmer average winter temperatures, longer summers, more frequent heat waves and flooding from severe storms. These changes in climate can be difficult to see as we go about our daily lives, but they are important because they impact our communities, economy, and culture. The way we live is based on the climate we live in. Warmer winters means less ice fishing, snowmobiling, and cross-country skiing, all vital parts of our culture and economy. Longer summers mean farmers have a longer growing season, but more bugs and diseases to deal with. Heat waves may be nice if you're on the beach, but they can harm vulnerable people like the elderly and young, or those who don't have access to cooler places. And flooding from heavy rain can destroy homes, roads, and crops. As our climate continues to change, impacts are becoming more and more serious. And even if climate change is not impacting your community now, it will soon.
Thank you. So that's video describe what is the climate and how the climate change. Before going in this lesson, I want you to watch this is picture and answer this is question and think deeply in this question. What clues can you find in this picture that tell you about the climate in this area? So, when I ask a question in this picture, what is the difference between weather in this area and the climate in this area? Keep thinking. The difference between the weather and climate, the weather is the elements that change or describe elements that describe the states of atmosphere change daily, day by day or hour by hour. So that's changing fastly or daily, like raining or temperature of this area or precipitation in this area and wind speed and direction. So this is weather and this is area. But climate that need to change a long period of time, like 13 years or something like that. So when I tell you describe the climate in this area, you should know what is this climate. So the climate is describe the some uh, weather, but in changing the weather in the long period of time. So the difference between weather and climate, weather is the elements describe the state of atmosphere daily or hour by hour or that short time, but climate that's describing the changing the weather by a long period in time. Thank you. So learning objectives for this is presentation of this is lesson. What's climate? Number one, huh? I will know what climate is, and I will know how to difference between weather and climate. And this is what we're talking about. Okay, responding to climate. Each one of you watch this is picture for the this is house called Adobe house. This is Adobe house that's made up of clay, water, sand, and organic materials, some organic materials. All of these materials can affecting the temperature inside the house. How this is happening? By this is material that's absorbing the sunlight. When the sun sets, the house inside can keep the temperature high or rising. And in the morning when the sunrise, the happen the opposite happen with the raising of temperature that's keeping the temperature outside the house. So the Adobe house that's made up of this is material like water, sand, and clay and organic material that's helping for keeping the climate in this is house. So what this is relation between this is house and climate that's keeping the house or the degree of temperature in house that's keeping raising for the sunset and the sunrise, because this is material that's capture and absorbing the sunlight. So this is houses, or this is kind of houses that's found in some places in Alaska or Canada. Why? Because that's places that's very cold, have very cold temperature. So this is houses that's found in these places. Why? Because that's keeping the heat inside the this is houses. So after we talking about this kinds of houses in some places and what this can changing the climate in this house, we should know this is that some factors that affecting the climate in a long time. So climate affected by some factors. Number one, elevation. What's the meaning of elevation? Elevation, that's meaning the height above sea level, and this is described or that's changing the climate when some places have a low elevation or some places or another places that have high elevation. So this is factor number one that's affecting the climate, elevation. As what that mean? That's mean the height above sea level. Number two, latitude. What's the meaning of latitude? Latitude is the measure of how far a place from the equator. Equator in the global. So how far from this is equator, that's a latitude. Okay? Number three is the weather. So we talking about weather before that in lesson number 2 actually. Weather is the state of atmosphere only the state of atmosphere, like wind speed and direction of wind, precipitation, temperature and amount of temperature. All of these factors that affecting the weather that's happen day by day, hour by hour, fastly. But climate that's need a long period for time that's changing the climate in this area. So we have three factors affecting the climate in the different area. Elevation, that's height above sea level. Latitude, the relation between or how far the place is from the equator in the global. Weather, and this is state of atmosphere that describing some factors like temperature, amount of temperature, precipitation, wind speed and direction of wind, something like that. So we can watching this video that describe the how or factors that's affecting the climate. latitude, that's number one. So before that, so this is video that talking about the factors that how can this is factors, three factors what we're talking about that's affecting the climate. Now, the average of the weather. So before that, we're talking about the difference between weather and climate. Again, weather is the state or that's describing the conditions of atmosphere only in the low time or day by day, hour by hour, that fast way. But the climate that's describing the change of weather or condition of atmosphere in a long periods of time. We watching here that's count some crops in some season and difference in some places. So we have here Gulf of Mexico, and we can watching in go in this is map of America. So what's the difference between the two places and the season of the year? So the climates that change year for the season, and the climate change by the latitude or some places how far this is placed nearly in the equator. So this is group that can vegetation make a vegetation in some times in year, and sometime else can be in this is picture can be any cannot be any vegetation. Why? Because this is season the change of climate, and some places that's different in the crew or the protecting of vegetation. Why? Because that's nearly the equator or how far the this is placed from the equator. And this is key can of samples of this is color that can responsible or that describe the how the shapes of Earth and how elevation of this is places. Okay, so we can watching this is video. That's video that explain how the climate change in this is area by the three factors that affecting the climates like latitude and elevation and water. So this is three factors that affected the climate. So watch the different color, like this is red color, that's hot weather or hot conditions in the same area, and the change of climate by the this is time, this is a long time. So that's video talking about the changing the climate by the long time. Climate and latitude. So latitude is the now one of factors that's affecting the climate. We said that latitude is the how far the places from the equator. So the equator is the this is line can uh, that's divided the earth to two hemisphere. So we can show this is placed in the equator that's 0 degrees, and this is called tropic zone. That's tropic zone. It's all they warm and sunny. So the climate in this area warm and sunny. In the equator 0 degree. When going north 23.5 degrees north. After that this is temperate zone. Temperate zone changing or mild. That's changing between the warm or sunny and cloud in the polar zone. When 66.5 degrees north polar zone, that's cold and ice. So that's how can showing the climates in this is different latitude. In equator warm and sunny, tropical zone, and temperate zone in the middle between the polar and tropic zone, that's changing and melt, and polar zone that's clouds and ice, the North Pole or South Pole. So we understanding the relation between the latitude and climate. So we can talk about the last point in this is lesson or presentation, climate and water and elevation. What's the relation between elevation, water, and changing the climate? And the elevation, that's the third factor that's affecting in climate. What's the difference between them? The coastal area, that's different in the inside of the continental crust. Why? Because the coastal area that have specific climate that's warm in winter and colder in summer. Why? That's the climate of this is area, and that's different in inside of the uh, continental. So we can watching the difference between two cities. Charleston, that's coastal area that's warm in winter and cold in summer, and always that's different in climate. So the elevation that's different in water. So this is difference and elevation. How we can high elevation in above the some mountains that climates low temperature and low air pressure as we know, and when we go in the sea level we're watching the high air pressure and high temperature like in Charleston. Excellent, we can watching this is video that make a summary for all the lesson, and we continue.
To be able to understand climate change, we need to understand climate. What is it? How does it work? What is the difference between weather and climate? In this short video, we'll explain what climate is, how our climate works, and how different factors affect our climate. First of all, let's answer the question of what is the difference between weather and climate. Weather is the elements we see daily, such as temperature, rain and wind. These can change hour by hour and day by day. Climate, on the other hand, looks at how the weather changes over a long period of time, typically around 30 years. Scientists have been able to define climate zones around the world. Here in the UK, we have a temperate climate. That is neither especially hot nor cold, wet nor dry, when compared to other climates. Ours is a very different climate to that in the Sahara, for example, which is known as arid, because throughout the year the weather is dry and hot. Scientists have to look at how the atmosphere interacts with the oceans, ice sheets, land masses and vegetation. These different interactions create a climate system, and these interactions, as well as the composition of the atmosphere itself, create a very complex system. The sun also drives our climate. Sunlight provides energy which heats the Earth. Without the Earth's atmosphere and certain gases, our climate would be very different to what it is now. The atmosphere stops the heat from escaping into space. If it didn't do this, our planet would be a very cold place indeed. Certain gases allow the sun's energy through, but stop it from escaping back into space, acting like a greenhouse. That's why it's called the greenhouse effect. The gases responsible for this effect, such as water vapour, carbon dioxide and methane, are called greenhouse gases. Scientists explain the heat-trapping effects of greenhouse gases more than 150 years ago. They discovered that, without the greenhouse effect, the Earth would be about 30 degrees Celsius cooler, making it uninhabitable to most forms of life. Greenhouse gases are so effective at keeping the Earth warm that any changes will affect the Earth's temperature. For more information about our weather and climate, visit the climate change pages on our website.
So that's the end of this lesson. I hope you understand what I said, and this is video can make a summary for all this lesson. And I want you to study hard, and goodbye.